My environmental message is very simple. We are a species in the process of degrading our own life support system. We have named ourselves very arrogantly Homo sapiens sapiens, the doubly wise species. Any species that is degrading its own life support system cannot be called wise. So we should rename ourselves Homo ignoramus. And we have 50 years and certainly no more than 100 years to correct this problem. Otherwise, we're in serious, serious trouble, as are maybe half of the other species on the planet. We know what to do. We have technical solutions. We have economic solutions. It's purely a political and educational problem. The Earth has been around 3.8 billion years. If you ask the question, how has the Earth sustained itself for 3.8 billion years? As far as I can tell as a scientist, it comes down to following 4 scientific principles of sustainability. The Earth sustains itself by 1, using solar energy. 2, recycling everything. All nutrients get recycled. There is no waste in nature. We're the only ones that really waste. 3, preserving biodiversity, incredible diversity of species and ecosystems and so on. And the advantage of that is that if a comet hits the Earth or anything happens and wipes out half of the Earth, half of the species, as it has in the past, you have other options. In other words, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You have a lot of different ways to go. And the 4th principle is population control. In nature, no population can ever get too big for its britches for too long, because there's a competition for resources and so on. Now, we've gotten very big for our britches, but that's not going to last too much longer. And so those 4 principles of scientific principles of sustainability are, you don't need to know any math, any chemistry, any biology to understand that. They're just common sense. So the simple thing is that all we have to do, and all is the operative word here, is to apply those 4 simple principles of sustainability to our societies, to our businesses, to our countries, and to our lives. And that's the solution. And we know how to do that. The question is, will we?
But as a Joe normal guy who gets up in the morning, what can I do?
What you can do is live more simply. You ask yourself, as you're already doing, you're living incredibly simply. You ask yourself, do I need this or do I want it? You try to lower your carbon footprint by not driving any more than you have to. Those are 2 things one could do. Conserving water, but most of all, becoming informed about how the Earth works and really learning these principles and trying to say, how can I apply this principle to what I'm doing? If you're throwing out trash, just boom, 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 then you're not following the recycling principle. If you're wasting energy, you're also not following the recycling principle. The United States is the Saudi Arabia of wind. We have enough wind power in this country in North Dakota, South Dakota, I believe Oklahoma, and parts of Texas to produce all the electricity in this entire country. And it can be done in a fairly short time. And wind energy is will be essentially the cheapest form of energy. It's also the least harmful from an environmental standpoint. We also have solar energy. The price has got to come down. But if you go to the California desert, you could put enough solar cells there to also produce all of the electricity in this country. But it's not just electricity, you want heat and everything. So what we have to do, instead of relying on one fuel, as we are now, pretty much oil or gasoline, you go to back to the diversity principle. You use a diversity of energy resources depending on where you are. If you're in certain parts of the West, you can use geothermal energy. You can use wind energy in other places. You can use biomass energy in other places, and so on. So you look around and you say, what do we have locally? And then we use that. And that means we have a diversity of these. Thanks. Another piece of good news, really, well, 2 pieces of good news, because there's a lot of bad news in environmental stuff, but one, it only takes 5 to 10% of the people to bring about change. If 5 to 10% of the people become convinced and organized and say we want to change, whether that's for good or bad, it usually happens. That's enough. And the second point is that change can occur much, much faster than we think. Once it gets going, it can change. Social change and environmental change can go very, very quickly. Throughout all of history, the only significant change has always come from the bottom up, not the top down. By scientists, by creative people who get the messages out, and by just groups of concerned people who get together to change the world. And that's the way it happens. Don't rely on Washington. They're not going to do anything unless you make them do it. So it's up to us. My final message is this. If I had to pick a time to be alive, it would be the next 75 years. This is the most exciting time to be alive on all the history of the human race. Why? Because we have 50 years, maybe 100, to develop a new relationship with the earth, where we help sustain it rather than degrade it as we're doing now. So we'll either do that or we won't. If we don't, global human population may drop from 6 billion to 2 billion. Before 4 billion people can't be supported. So this is a great time to be alive, because everything that each of us does or does not do will affect the outcome of what's going to happen in the next 75 years. So you have more leverage than anybody's ever had, more responsibility than anybody's ever had. That's scary, but it's also exciting. You'll never have that chance again.
The ultimate crossroads.
Yeah, the ultimate crossroads. Robert Frost, the taking the path and everything. We're at a cultural path here. It's serious, really serious. I mean, before we've had longer time to do this, but now we don't. We've used up our chips. We've run up a huge ecological deficit on our ecological credit card. Actually, right now, the Earth is using about 25% more of the Earth's resources than can be sustained in the long run. We're already overdrawn 25%. If we keep going like we will, it will be overdrawn 50% in about 20 years. If everyone in the world tried to live at the level of resource use that we do in the United States, it would take 5 Earths. We don't have 5 Earths. So that's it.
Think green, live green.